Hi everyone and welcome back to Love English. I'm Sabrah, your British University English teacher. Today we're going to be looking at 25 professional English words. Now these are some of the most common professional English words that you'll hear in the workplace and work settings, so it will really give you that confidence that you know you can follow most conversations in the workplace. As let's face it, working in English can be a challenge and you need to know these really common terms that are passed around quickly in the workplace. So let's get started. Number one is projections, and projections really means predictions. So what you think might happen in the future based on the current information you have or the current data. So you might hear, well, sales projections for the next 6 months are looking quite good. Or projections for where we'll be in terms of reducing climate emissions are currently looking a little bit bleak. So it's the forecast, predictions. Number two is the word perspective. Now, you might in the office be tempted to keep saying I think or my viewpoint or I guess. Instead of saying those words, why not use the word perspective? You can say from my perspective, or my perspective on this is, or one perspective could be, and immediately you sound a little bit more professional and formal. So give it a try. Perspective. Number three, this one in fact rhymes. This one is objective. Objective is a better way of saying goal or target, and you'll hear it all the time in the workplace. So you might hear our objectives for this year are to increase brand awareness, to increase sales. It's a word you hear a lot in the office. Instead of goals, they talk about objectives, things they want to meet, things they want to reach. So it's a really good one to know. You could also start things by saying, well, my objective for holding this meeting is, things like that. Again, it will immediately help you to sound that bit more professional. Number four, this is a slightly tricky one. This is extrapolate. And extrapolate really means to try to take out certain data from information or from data you currently have to try to use that to gain more of an understanding for what could happen in the future, what might be true, to use it in the workplace in a beneficial way. So you might say, we could extrapolate the data from the last case study on why people didn't buy our shampoo to really try to understand what went wrong there with that product. So you're taking out the data, taking out the most important information to try to understand something in more depth. Number five, this is one you will certainly hear a lot. This is to brainstorm. Now, if you and your colleagues are having a problem understanding how to solve a problem or what to do for this project, then you might say, okay, let's brainstorm about it. And it's where everybody gets together, usually with a big whiteboard, and you write your ideas down based on certain themes. So you might think about ways we could make something work, options, issues, potential opportunities, things like that. Often people brainstorm using a SWOT analysis. If you haven't heard of a SWOT analysis, it's used a lot in business and marketing. It's where you analyze something from the perspective of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But brainstorming is something that happens in all workplaces around the world. It's quite a fun thing to do. I do love having a good brainstorm. Number six is stance, and this is quite similar in a way to perspective. It's where you stand on an issue, whether you agree, disagree, or whether you're neutral. So you might say, my stance on further staff redundancies is that it will cause problems among the current staff. They might feel more negative towards the workplace. We often say, my stance on this is. It's a very common phrase, my stance on this is. So it's a nice one to know if you want to say, for example, where you stand on an issue. So my stance on this current project is that I don't think the dates are achievable right now, for example. Again, just sounds that little bit more professional. Number seven, a little bit more of an informal one, but one you'll hear a lot in the office. This is the lowdown, and it's like the latest or the news. So for example, you might hear, can I get the lowdown on what they said in the morning briefing regarding who's going to be placed where in the next project cycle? Or what's the lowdown on staff bonuses for this year? Number 8 is to drill down. Now, I think if you work in tech firms or things like that, You're really going to hear this a lot because you talk about drilling down into the data. And essentially it's where you go very deeply into the data to try to extrapolate information from that, which could be useful. To drill is to go deep into something, like when people drill for oil, they go down into the earth with big drills, big machines. Obviously here, it just means to go deeply into something, so to drill down. This one is return on investment, ROI. And essentially, return on investment means what did you gain back from your investment? How many sales, how many leads? Some of this is not easy to measure because, for example, some marketing initiatives, some sales initiatives produce more brand exposure, so produce more people knowing about you, and you can't always measure that, but you can measure leads and sales. So you would calculate the return on investment, so you would minus the amount of money that you spent on the marketing from the profits. It's used a lot in marketing, ROI. Number 10 is KPIs, key performance indicators. Essentially, every company needs to measure their success. And key performance indicators are units in which we measure the success of a company or a department or a team. So it'll be things like the amount of customers who returned satisfactory surveys, it will basically be all different according to which team, which department, and the whole company as well. So these are set on every level. So it could be things like, did you meet your objectives, sales, happiness of staff. There's all kinds of things which can be key performance indicators, but generally you'll be set these by your boss, your KPIs. Tell me in the comments, guys, do you use this term at work, KPIs, or do you use ROI? Do tell me about that in the comments below. Number 11 is ramifications, and this means the consequences. So when we talk about the ramifications, we often mean the slightly negative or unwelcome consequences of an action. So we might say, well, we've seen the ramifications of cutting staff's breaks. They tend to get overtired and take sick days. Or the ramifications of this could be significant. Instead of saying consequences, you can change it for ramifications. Or making staff redundancies now is bound to have ramifications. So if you're using consequences in a more negative way, then you can change that for ramifications. Number 12 is conversely, and this is a personal favorite of mine. If I want to sound more professional in a meeting or in a work environment, I will change the word however or on the other hand to conversely. So it's like saying England is a cold country, conversely, India is a warm country. But obviously in the workplace, you're going to be saying more professional things than that. So you might want to say something like, the offices on the 30th floor are the best and the biggest. Conversely, they're on the 30th floor, so it's a long elevator trip, for example. It's like however. Number 13 is to conduct something. Now in the workplace, we tend to use conduct over do. We tend to say conduct a survey, conduct an interview, conduct a case study. So it's a more professional, formal way, academic way as well, of saying you're going to do something. So you might say, who is going to conduct the interview today? Or when are HR conducting the staff survey? Number 14 is case study or sample set. And a case study or a sample set is where a particular group is taken to study something intensely. So for example, you might want to understand who is going to buy your shampoo. And so you could have a case study of women in their 30s and a case study of women in their 20s, or a sample set of each, and give them the shampoo, and then you would see what they said afterwards. And from that, you'd be able to extrapolate lots of information from those case studies on whether they liked the shampoo, whether they could afford it, everything like that. So it's like taking a little group of people and studying something intensely within that, so testing things out. They're often used a lot in science, so with developing a vaccine, there'll be sample sets and case studies. But it's not only for people, it can also be animals, it can be trees, it can be the natural world, all kinds of things can be studied in this way. Number 15 is entail. Entail means involve, it's a synonym of involve. So we could say, oh, what does this project entail? Instead of what does this project involve? Sounds a little bit better. Or we might say, this is a situation that entails considerable risks. Or if you're introducing a project to staff, you could say, this new project entails, and then detail about the project. So it's a nice easy one to use instead of involve. The next one is morale, staff morale. This is something you might hear talked about, and it means the feelings of the staff. How happy are they? What's the general feeling like in the office? For example, in a place where staff bonuses have all been cut for the year, there might be slightly lower morale for a while. Also in offices with lots of windows, plants, water coolers, free coffee, morale will tend to be a little bit higher. It's really the happiness, the feeling of the staff. We also talk about this in the army, we talk about it in a country, the morale of the people. So how are they feeling at the moment? What is the current kind of emotions like of the people? Number 17, if you've ever taken IELTS, then you'll certainly have used this in your task 1. This is to level off. And basically it's used a lot in the workplace because when there has been fluctuation, so changes in statistics, changes in sales, figures, things like that, you might say there's been fluctuation, but then it levels off, and this means it starts to become steady. So you might say sales have leveled off after a period of fluctuation. So after a period of them going up and down, now they've leveled off, which isn't a bad thing. It's not an amazing thing, but it certainly means that at least you're staying steady. Number 18 is deep dive, and this means to go deeply into a topic, very similar to drill down. So we might say we're going to take a deep dive into the data or into analytics to really understand why exactly the last product didn't sell amongst women in their 20s. So you're going to go deeply into it and really analyze the data, or really analyze the feedback from people, anything like that, to take a deep dive. Number 20 is regarding. Now this means with reference to or about this. So if you want to introduce a topic, you can say the word regarding. So you might say, regarding the new CEO, we're going to have a memo coming around today about when he's going to introduce himself. Or please check your emails regarding the latest regulations on coronavirus safety. It's a nice easy one. Instead of saying about this or on this subject, you can say regarding. Number 21, this is a great one. This is consensus. The consensus is the general opinion of a group. So if you look at the word, it comes from consent, which means approval, to approve of. So you could say the general consensus at head office is that we need to increase our marketing budget for this year. Or based on the recent staff survey, the general consensus was that we still need to reduce our carbon footprint more as a workplace. Number 22 is arise. And this essentially means to happen or to come up or occur. And so it's a nice synonym for any of those. It sounds a little bit more professional. So in emails, you could write something like, do let me know if any issues arise. Or we're having a new IT system put in today, so technical difficulties are bound to arise. Or let me know what challenges arise. Anything like that, but it definitely sounds more professional. Number 23 is cutbacks, and this means reductions. You might hear something like, unfortunately this year there's going to be cutbacks in terms of spending on staff events. So expect a more reduced Christmas party and summer event. Something like this, due to general cutbacks in the company, due to the coronavirus, something like this. So it means reductions in staff or in budgets. Number 24 is turnover. You'll hear this word a lot. This means how much money a company made annually without taking into consideration expenses and taxes. So the costs and taxes. So it's their total income without taking away any of their expenses and costs. So it's not profit. It's not the same as profit. Profit is, of course, what is made once you deduct costs, expenses, taxes. Number 25 is a briefing. If you hear this, that there's going to be a briefing, essentially this is a meeting where you will be briefed about something. You will be informed about something, and it's not really a meeting in that sense because you're more being told about something. And it's called a briefing because technically it should be brief, but very often briefings are not like this. But you are told in summary about a new project, about a new agenda, about issues. If you're in the military, there is constant briefings about updates regarding all kinds of things, targets, locations, settings, all kinds of things like that. So a briefing, essentially it's an informative meeting. Okay everyone, they were our 25 professional English words. Do let me know if you use these or which ones I may have forgotten, and try to use any of them in a sentence below and I will try and check that for you. Good luck with your work everyone. Bye bye.